Yeah, he played really well. For a true freshman, we've been excited about him for a while. I think he's a multiple position guy. I think he can play tackle, guard. He's actually done some center as well. He's a smart guy. He's a mature guy. He's picked it up fast. Um, but he played well. I mean, typically with offensive linemen, if you're not talking about him, that's a good thing. And we've been very impressed with him. We'd still like to redshirt him if we could, but I don't know if that will be feasible.
James, you've been familiar with Tagovailoa for a while now. In the time that you've started seeing him at Maryland, what are the differences you've seen in his game, and how would you say he's evolved as a quarterback over the past few years?
Yeah, obviously he's always been an athletic guy and a guy that can create and extend plays, can really make all the throws. His accuracy has gotten better. His touchdown to interception ratio has gotten better. I also think, from a system standpoint, they've done a really good job of putting him in position to be successful and also recruiting well around him. He's got a bunch of weapons around him. He's like a lot of quarterbacks. He just continues to get better with experience and, with the talent they've surrounded him with.
With the transfer portal situation being like, we'll have more situations like Chop being able to play against the team that he just played for. What's kind of, has he had any certain reactions to it this week? And then for you, how do you kind of work through with guys who are playing their most recent teams right off the bat?
Yeah, we don't really get into it a whole lot. I mean, obviously it's different the way college football is now. I mean, this would have never happened obviously years ago. There's always been transfers, but it was always harder to do it kind of within conference. But it really hasn't been a whole lot of conversation. Obviously he'll be excited to play. They got some players on their team from Pennsylvania. They'll be motivated, but it hasn't been a big conversation piece.
James, when decisions are being made for Olu's availability, whether it's this week or the rest of the season, is it strictly a medical thing, or are other considerations being taken into account? For example, where he's projected in the draft.
No, right now it's strictly a medical decision based on where our doctors and trainers feel like he is, where he feels like he is. That's the conversation. Obviously, there's other conversations that are going on, but not about availability for games.
James, your depth at linebacker was a question coming into the season. You saw Curtis and Tyler get banged up on Saturday. Do you know if you're going to have them on Saturday? And if not, how do you feel about sort of the guys behind them compared to how you felt maybe in September or August?
Yeah, as you guys know, I'm not going to talk about guys that are going to be available on Saturday. A lot of times I don't know at this stage of the week anyway, but I've been happy with our depth.
James, and speaking of that depth, is Keon Wiley a player who could get some run here down the stretch in November, and how has he come along on the practice field for you? I know he was working at will. Is that still the case?
Yeah, and he could. He played this past weekend. So yeah, he's a guy that can factor in. We got a lot of confidence in him. He's handled the whole process really well. He's starting to put on some size and getting bigger, because that was a little bit of an issue when he first showed up. But yeah, he's a guy that could factor in for sure.
Most of the sacks on Saturday were from the guys on the line. Was there like a certain matchup, or was there a different scheme that you guys used to be that successful against Indiana?
No, it's about matchups. It's about they threw the ball a lot. It's about us playing man coverage and forcing the quarterback to hold on to the ball. But it wasn't like we ran a different scheme that week. Obviously, you always have a few little pressures or twists that are different week to week, but no, it was about our guys are getting better and some of the matchups were favorable.
Hey James, you mentioned, I think it was either last week or yesterday, about how Olu was kind of like the left tackle coach for Drew. How has Drew handled that download of information from Troutwine and from Olu and from Caden Wallace and from everybody to get him ready for last week, and then possibly for the future if necessary?
Yeah, it's not like the only difference is probably Olu. He's been taking reps there as a backup all year, and again we would hope, and it looked like he has been preparing as if he was the starter. So really the only difference is Olu spending a little bit more time with him in practice as kind of like the left tackle coach.
James, with building depth, back in August you talked about not being led by ego at certain points during the season as an attempt to get guys in and build that depth. At this point in the year, how do you feel like you've done with that and that goal for the end of the year?
Yeah, I think we've done well with that. We played a lot of guys early on, and we had a ton of games where we were fortunate to be in a position to get guys on the field and get reps, which also allows your veterans to get some time off the field and get them rested and recovered. But yeah, I think there's been a ton of examples that you guys have seen, whether it's seconds or thirds, playing considerable reps, either rotating in or through injury. So I think there's a ton of examples of depth and guys being developed and ready to play when their number's been called.
You mentioned the number of Pennsylvania natives playing in Maryland, but on the flip side, pretty big Maryland footprint on your roster. Why do you think you've been able to be successful recruiting in that state over the past few years?
Yeah, obviously, distance plays a major factor in it. We're not far from them. Penn State's always had a really good history of players from the DMV and specifically Maryland. I lived there for 8 years. I got a lot of contacts and connections. I was a recruiting coordinator at the University of Maryland for a while, so got a lot of guys on my staff like Anthony Poindexter that recruited the area for a long time. So it's just a combination of them being in the region, the distance. I mean, I think if I'm correct here, I think it's the same distance to Baltimore that it is, I think, to Pittsburgh and Philly or similar. So it makes a ton of sense.
James, last year there were frustrations about the offensive line, and you didn't go that deep on the offensive line. This year, signs of progress, and you're going deep when you have to. You've rotated guys in. Those two things combined, seeing that from Phil Troutwine in the unit, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to the program?
Yeah, I think it's a real positive. I mean, obviously, I think that the challenge for everybody, especially in today's day and age of college football, is depth across the board, and at positions like O-line, where sometimes it takes a little bit longer to develop those guys because it's a man's game. When you're that close to the ball, it can be challenging. So we're in a better position. Again, that goes back to the point that I've made multiple times about we seem to have a larger number of young freshmen in this class that have been able to come in and contribute, and that's not just a tailback. That's at positions like offensive line where typically that's not the case.
Is that something that, obviously rankings are what they are, but is that something you mentioned besides the line a few weeks ago that you're going to look to change in recruiting? Like you said, you want to get bigger. Do you make that a priority? Do you say, hey, we were looking at guys that are this frame with a projection to be this big? Like, how do you try and figure that out? Will you change anything with that moving forward?
No, I think I've talked to you guys in the past about some of the things that we have to do to change and help in that area. We've talked about it a bunch. But the other thing is obviously whenever you can get a guy that's a little bit bigger, that helps with that. But I wouldn't say we're necessarily changing our recruiting model. I mean, if you look, some of the most highly respected players in college football and the NFL as offensive linemen started out as tight ends and D ends and things like that. So, you definitely can grow the position in a lot of different ways. You can do it through recruiting, but you can also do it through development. I'd say more times than not, it comes through development. That's in the weight room, and that's in the nutrition plan, and that's all those things that are factored in.
James, how would you say Khalil Dinkins has progressed in year two?
Yeah, really good. He's smart, he's talented, he's athletic, he's getting bigger and stronger. He's getting more confident with the playbook. So, it was good to see him get in the game and make some plays on Saturday. We're going to need that to continue to grow with him. And then hopefully we'll be getting Jerry Cross here back at some point. He's another guy we're pretty excited about.
Hey James, when you're going up against a certain team, for example, teams have to contend with your pressure and the personality of your defense. When you're going up against an offense maybe that throws a lot of screens, does that change your personality at all, or does that change something from your perspective where it kind of fundamentally tilts what you might want to do or how you react to stuff like that?
Yeah, I think your question is a good one, and they do throw a ton of screens, and they're good at it. It's one of the better things that they do. So yeah, I think it could impact what you do and how you do it, but you could also say, okay, within our scheme that already exists with the things that we're calling, there's still somebody that's responsible for the tailback. There's still somebody that's responsible for the tight end. there's still a whole player who's a free player who's reading the quarterback and can make plays as well. So it's a combination of really both of those things.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
Thank you.